The November 2022 meeting of the City of Scranton Zoning Hearing Board will now come to order. Will the secretary please take roll?
Mr. McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Gattens?
Here.
Mr. Chairman?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. In accordance with the Pennsylvania State Sunshine Law, this board shall render its decision on each case either at the end of each hearing or within 45 days of the hearing. If you are here to give testimony in a case, please come to the podium, raise your right hand, and wait to be sworn in. After being sworn in, state your name and address and proceed with your testimony. Also, anyone giving testimony who does not become a party to the case may obtain a written decision from the zoning office. I also have two announcements of law. If you are granted a variance or a special exception, you must wait 30 days from the date of our decision to obtain necessary permits to start work. However, you may obtain a permit sooner by signing a waiver that any work done during that 30-day period is at your own risk. A favorable decision by this board shall expire 12 months from the date of said authorization in accordance with Section 111I of the zoning ordinance. If you fail to obtain the necessary permits or do not comply with any or all conditions of said authorization, you must seek an extension. Is there any remarks?
I do, Sean.
Sure.
It's been brought to my attention in the 11 and 1200 block of North Washington Avenue, there's vehicles parking on both sides of the street. Right now, there's approximately 12 vehicles. 4 of them have no license plates. There's one empty trailer, and there's a few vehicles with blocks of wood under their tires. Obviously, some of them haven't moved. And on the 1200 block, on the even side, there's approximately 25 tires stacked on the sidewalk. And in the 11 and 1200 blocks of North Washington, there's been millions of dollars of new investment between the dentist office and the self-storage shed. So in consideration of what I said, if licensing and inspections can go out there and investigate to see, are they abandoned vehicles? There is on the 1200 block a car repair garage operation, and at the corner of Larch and North Washington, it might be a salvage operation. It's just cars in various disrepair. So I just want to bring it up and let licensing know and inspections. That's all.
Thank you. Don or Mr. Jenkins, could we attest and verification of the postings?
Mr. Jenkins, zoning officer, all documents were posted in due time.
Thank you. And welcome to our zoning meeting. Call the first case.
Case number 1, Yeshiva Beth Moshe seeks variance to construct new dormitory building and provide fewer than the required parking spaces to serve its students who are required to live on campus at 930 Hickory Street, R1A zone. This is continued from the August meeting.
You guys can come up. Just going to head over either to the microphone.
I believe the board has already received a copy of a proposed agreement that was entered into between the yeshiva, represented here is Rabbi Schneidman, who is one of the deans at the school, along with the members of the neighbors on Alder Street. We were here about 3 months ago. We had a PowerPoint presentation, you may remember that, and it showed, and the engineer is here, again, to show you the changes that have been made as a result of the agreement between the parties. It's behind me, and I want to call him as a witness to explain to you the changes that are being made. And I have copies of those, of the diagram for you, but I wanted you to see this from the engineer itself, okay? Mr. Stinson, please.
Good evening, board members.
Sir, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state and spell your full name.
Drake Christopher Stinson, S-T-I-N-S-O-N.
Thank you.
Just head over to the microphone, sir.
Okay, as Howard, our attorney, indicated before, the applicant has met several times with the neighbors to accommodate them, to discuss the project, to see what we could do to make the project more amenable to the neighbors. Our attorney had prepared an agreement, a list of things that we were going to agree to. They came around, they provide the agreement that is in front of you now. And a lot of those things, kind of general talks about certain things that for the most part, you know, the yeshiva is agreeing to. And those items which pertain to the site plan design, I'm here to show you now, which is what they were. We've agreed to try and limit the traffic that would be entering the site from Adler Street. So we changed the driveway over here to one way so that we only have vehicles coming in, and there's a gate, so the cars would pull off the road, stop at the gate. This is primarily for deliveries, because at the end of the building, this is where the kitchen and the kitchen and the deliveries, there's storage underneath at the lower level. That's where deliveries would come in. We've agreed that the trucks that deliver will enter that way. It would be one way, so the trucks would only come in, and then they would exit on Stafford Street. So we changed that driveway to one way. Because we changed that driveway to one way, we actually ended up with a little more space back here for the basketball court, because I had that as overflow parking. So the overflow parking went up to 33 spaces. So just to be clear for the record, we're proposing 35 regular marked parking spaces with an additional 33 in the overflow, which is shown in this diagram, to be able to provide a total of 68 parking spaces.
Just try to stay at the microphone so everybody can hear you, please.
Okay, I was reading the table. Okay, so we improved the parking. We have extra overflow parking. The other thing they asked about was landscaping, if we could add some more landscaping. So we did add a whole nother row of trees. We had the regular street trees here, which are shown in red. They're red maples. Those would be between the sidewalk and the curb line. Then I added another row of decorative ornamental trees inside, just behind them, offset. So it's going to look beautiful. And they asked for screening also around the basketball court. Now we're going to have a wall, because this is going to be an area of fill, obviously, because the property slopes off in the back. So there'll be a segmental block wall, and then we're going to have a 10-foot security privacy fence with a screen on it, so that it would be blocking the vision and deaden the sound somewhat. And in front of that wall, to lessen the appearance of the concrete, the blocks of the wall, we have a privet hedge in there, and we're going to put landscaping in front of the wall so that it lessens the effect of the buffers the visual on that end. Other than that, those are the site plan changes that we've made in accordance with the request by the neighbors. We think it's an improvement. The applicant is looking to be a good neighbor. We've made these changes, and then there's other items in the list of conditions that we're agreeing to most of them. And I believe the applicant can present some comments on the conditions. Is there any other questions on the changes to the drawing? Thank you.
It should be understood.
I just want to clarify, the list that I was handed, I was told that
You
both
have a
sides
copy?
agreed to. So he said most. Is it everything on this list we're agreeing to?
Except number 12. I believe number 12 talks about the number of students that are to be at the school. and that is somewhat not agreed upon. The school will try to keep it to about 150, but, you know, there may be more than that, not many more than that, but there might be more. So I don't know why there would be an objection to the number of students at the school. This is the plan that they wanted.
Hold on one second.
All right, thank you. This is the plan that they wanted. I can call it. I'm sorry?
Over here.
Over here.
Dan, go ahead.
I think you should have your witness testify as to the remainder items on here, the remaining items on this list.
Okay.
That were not covered by Mr. Stinson.
All right.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do not swear, I will affirm.
Correct. Thank you. Will you please state and spell your full name?
My full name, Chaim Schneidman, Chaym Schneidman, and I am a rabbi at the dean of the school. And I would like to begin my testimony. I received a text this morning from Irene Needham, one of the neighbors on the 900 Alder, and she said to me that she was planning on attending the zoning board meeting, but there's a family emergency. It is unlikely she will be able to attend, and she asked me to submit the document that she sent prior to the last meeting, the scheduled meeting. She also talked a little bit about more landscaping. I answered her that I would present it for her. As far as landscaping, I just commit to try and help and ensure that everybody is satisfied like we've done till now. And she answered me, thank you, I appreciate that. And in that vein, I will present what she wrote, which I understand the board has. I guess I should just paraphrase it then for briefness. She talks about that we had the zoning meeting on August 10th and that we were asked to meet together. Representatives of Yeshiva and the neighbors met twice, in August and in September. Both meetings were extremely amicable, which is indicative of the relationship the neighbors and Yeshiva have had over the years. She says that the neighbors remain opposed to cutting down trees and replacing them with stone and concrete buildings. However, if the zoning board grants the variances, Yeshiva has agreed to the following conditions, and she would like them read into the record, and a copy of such will be submitted to the board, which you have. The first one is the traffic at the proposed Alder Street entrance, which Mr. Stinson dealt with. The second one is the parking lot. The parking, which we are asking for a variance for fewer parking than we would actually need, and that's a major issue. The parking lot is for the use of teachers and administrators. Yeshiva Beth Moshe will continue its present policy that students are not allowed to leave cars in the grounds, and as such will not be utilizing any parking on or surrounding the campus. It is understood that temporary or limited parking for religious holidays and visits by parents will occur. The lighting and the windows in the Alder Street side will be frosted or tinted to limit light pollution and to provide privacy. From the students from the dorms will not be able to see the neighbors' windows. Windows on the new building will slant out and not slide up, also for privacy concerns. In addition, all lights on the new building will shine downward, not outward, to limit light pollution. The basketball court's lighting, whatever it will have, will be off by 10 p.m. every day. In addition, lights will be aimed downward, not outward. And she talks here about what Mr. Stinson already talked about, the walls trying to limit sound. Landscaping, again, Mr. Stinson described the landscaping that was added because of the agreement. Garbage pickup, Yeshiva Beth Moshe will attempt to the best of our ability to request that any garbage pickup does not occur before 8 a.m. Garbage dumpsters will be on the inside of the property towards the middle, not on the Alder Street side. During the construction phase, the yeshiva will attempt to minimize disruption to the neighborhood. All attempts will be made to have all construction vehicles and materials stored on the inside of the property during the construction. Yeshiva Beth Moshe agrees that a mining subsidence study will be conducted prior to construction, and the residents of the neighborhood will be advised of the outcome. The Yeshiva Beth Moshe agrees that the Yeshiva Co-op, which is a store that is right now located on premises, will be removed from the premises permanently. It is there together with the Stafford building that is coming down. When that building comes down, the yeshiva will be gone. We're not giving it any room in the new building or the Hickory building, which is currently up. Contact. Lack of a responsible adult on site to supervise the high school students during late night hours was discussed. Yeshiva agrees to provide neighbors with at least 3 contact persons for any potential issues that may arise, or the office number for the school will automatically be forwarded to one of these contact people after school hours. They obviously have at least mine. I was from the fact that I received that text today. Water runoff. Yeshiva Beth Moshe will be in compliance with water runoff issues and retention of stormwater runoff. Sure. Yes. Yeshiva Beth Moshe will be in compliance with water runoff issues and retention of stormwater runoff. I think that was discussed in the last meeting by Mr. Stinson. Now, the last two, 11 and 12, are the ones where there's some slight contention with. It's written here, along with maintenance of landscaping as previously discussed, an outside provider will be contracted to maintain the property, which includes but is not limited to pickup of garbage surrounding property and snow removal. I don't remember exactly what happened by the meeting. The snow removal is definitely going to be contracted to an outside party. As far as, we'll try to maintain it as well as possible, and where the need arises, we will have an outside contractor. To pick up the garbage, we will make sure to have daily an inspection by our maintenance to pick up the garbage, whatever is thrown out, it comes over there, but to have an outside person for that is probably not very feasible. So that line of it is really a little bit, And then the last one, also there's a slight thing. I previously testified in the initial zoning board meeting. The number of total students in campus will not exceed 150 students. Mr. Spicer mentioned that this is what we're projecting. If the 151st student comes, we'll accept the 151st student if he fits in. We're not looking, 150 is not an absolute number. It's a number which limits it to something that you consider 150 students. 175 is not 150. 152 is 150. Then they have one last thing. Therefore, the number of students in each dorm room in the new building will be between 2 to 3 students per dorm, unlike previously mentioned in the original hearing, which we said that we'd hold 4 or 5 students. 5 students we're definitely not planning on. As far as 3 students or 4 students, that's really an internal issue. If something comes up that we need to have this room have 4 and that room have 2, we don't really want to agree that we're going to limit that. We're limiting the overall number of students. As far as each particular room, that really doesn't seem to make much of a difference. So I think we have, we really came a long way to meeting the concerns of our neighbors. If not 100%, 95%. The fact that they don't want the whole project is nothing that we can't help. But I think we have really done our part to try to alleviate as much as possible any of the neighbors' concerns.
Rabbi, I have a question. We'll stay on number 12 right now. I don't have my papers from the very first meeting with me, so maybe it was stated there, maybe it wasn't. How many total rooms, student rooms, will be in that building?
In that building?
In that building.
27 or 28. I'm not sure if it's 27 or 28.
And that's the new building.
Right.
And what building are the other students going to be housed in? The one on Hickory Street?
In the Hickory Street building, which is in the middle of this being designed.
And how many rooms, student rooms, will be in that building?
That is not yet clear. It's in the middle of the design phase. What we are planning to have is a certain group of students in the Hickory building and a certain group of students in the new building. So there will be a fluctuation. There will be more rooms than we need, depending on which part of the school is bigger or smaller at the time. So we'll have more rooms than we need. If we fill all the rooms to capacity, it would be too many. But we're not planning to do that.
So to say, if you, in your new building, if you cap it at 4 per room, we're looking at roughly, say, 115, 116 students would fit.
If they would all be full completely,
Right.
yes.
Okay. So what's your maximum? What would your maximum students be on your campus?
We're looking for 150. That's what we're looking. As I said before, 152, 153, we're not going to stop at that. Once it starts getting further than that, that's already going to be more than we feel that we're going to be able to service.
Right, that was my next question. What do you feel is the max that your school could handle?
In the 150 range.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I mean, would it be okay to say that we agreed to the 150, but maybe with an overflow of 170? Does that make any kind of sense, Dan?
Can we even cap that? Can we even,
You could cap it.
yeah.
Yeah, you could put a cap number on it. So whether it be 150, 160, 165, whatever your cap is, I mean, 165 would be 10% over the 150.
And this way, if it ever did go above that number, they'd have to come back to us to expand.
Correct.
Well, like 165? Yeah, 10%. All right. I think we'd like to add that in, please.
Let's, just clarification, let's back to number 11, where you said there's a little bit. So the one where you're concerned with the number 11, the part you're concerned is the fact to hire somebody outside to pick up trash along the property. Is that what, did I hear it correctly in that statement?
Yeah, that particular, picking up the trash, I think, is not feasible to have it.
I think he's saying he has his own maintenance crew.
Well, I agree with him. I'm saying, like, I don't see where you'd have to hire.
Snow removal is already outsourced.
Right, and
Any major maintenance, we'll have it, but.
And you have all those teenagers there, I'm sure you could put a work crew together and have them go out and
Yeah, you know,
earn their keep, so.
I mean, we will set up to have a daily walk around the building
Okay.
to make sure to clean up what trash happened.
Look, I'll say this, and I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure someone else on the board will come in on this. This is the way it should be. It should be neighbors getting together. There's a project of this scope happening in the city, whether it's this city or any city. It's a lot easier if the neighbors get together with the applicants and talk things through, and we come to an agreement like we have here, where both parties are respectful of each other and they're happy with the outcome. Now, we haven't heard from the neighbors yet to make sure everything is what they want in this, but from what I've been hearing, it is. So I congratulate both parties on this, to come to this agreement that they came to tonight. It makes our job a lot easier up here, too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're not going to take any other testimony, correct?
Well, we would want to hear from the neighbors if anybody has any objections.
Is anybody here to give objections to this?
And raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And say and spell your full name, please.
Ann McDonough, A-N-N-M-C, capital D-O-N-O-U-G-H. Thank you. Thank you, board members, Mr. Walsh, Chairman, for having us come back this evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet with our neighbors. It was a heated, crazy, very tough night that first night. I have to thank our neighbors, Rabbi and Joshua, that we met with up at Naog Park twice. It was very agreeable, amicable, dialogue back and forth, and came to great results. My only concern is that when we're talking about the garbage, we're not talking about the garbage from the dormitories and the things inside the property. Over the years, as we know, all around the outside of the property, debris. And probably some of it was not even from the people residing on the property. But we want to make sure that this beautiful property doesn't look like it's not being taken care of, and that we, the neighbors, don't have to look at anything outside that's not where it should be. So that's what is concerned about, the outside of the garbage, okay? And as far as the number of the students, again, we're meeting here tonight. We met back in August. We met in Naog. But once this meeting is done tonight, we don't know when or if we ever have to meet again. We want to make sure that it doesn't get away to the point that maybe I move, somebody else moves, but that school does grow to be maybe 200, maybe 250. There's post-high school students there now, I don't know how many exactly, that could grow. And all of a sudden, we have like a mini college campus and high school. So that's my only concern, and we did not have an opportunity to talk to the rabbi about this, or Joshua, as far as increasing numbers to a larger amount. So that's why the number at that meeting was approximately 150. So that's, I think, an agreeable number. And if you're talking about 5 to 10 extra students, nobody's going to complain about that. We wouldn't even know if there's 5 or 10 more students. We want to make sure it's not going to go to 200 or 250. And as far as the parking on the variance, it states for, because they reside there, the number of parking spots. The students are not allowed to drive cars. So I want that in the record, that they're not bringing cars onto the campus. The parking spots are for the people that teach there, that service them, the religious, and any other visitors that come to the property. But it's not for the people that reside on the property. And that has to be put into the record.
I believe it's
We
on
do
here,
have
right?
that.
Pardon me?
We do have that on the record. Ann, over here.
Where am I looking?
Hello.
You know what? You are not visible there. You got to be up higher.
That is in the record.
Okay, so it's just...
It does say that the parking lots will be used for teachers and administrators only, and that the students are not allowed to have cars on the grounds.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that's part of this tonight so that we don't have to revisit it in the future or appeal or whatever else. But again, I also would like to say thank you. It gave us a great opportunity to get to know our neighbors better. And I think that we have a great dialogue that's going to continue. And if anything, it'll probably be addressed just between us and not have to come back here again.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have to make a,
I think you have to make a motion with
the cap?
the conditions that are listed in this 1 to 12. And if you have any changes to those conditions, make that part of your motion.
We're gonna. And I mean, how about number 11, where do we have to address that with they're gonna take care of that in-house with their maintenance for cleaning up outside? Are we okay with their maintenance crew taking care of the outside?
It's inside and outside, right? We know they're going to take care of the inside of the property because it's a brand new facility and they're going to be using the inside more than outside.
Okay.
But they do go to stores and they, travel around the neighborhood. So we just want to make sure the outside is just as clean as the inside.
And I'm sure you guys are gonna be good neighbors and make sure that that happens.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion with the condition of we cap it at 165 students at number 12, and that we accept the rest of the conditions as written, which is agreed upon by the neighbors and the applicant.
I'll second the motion.
On the motion, Mr. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Gattens.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, a vote of 5-0, you've been approved. Good luck and please be good neighbors.
As a land development, so when, yeah. Yeah. That,
Yeah, oh, you're approved now, so you could go to the next meeting. No. Not me.
the city solicitor serves as the planning, Jessica Escrow.
No, you already put the X's there.
We'll give them. Don, could we call the second case, please?
Case number 2, Thomas Hoppel seeks variance to convert 1 unit to 2-unit homes at 507, 509, 511, 513 River Street, R20 zone, continued from the September hearing.
For clarification, are we starting testimony from the beginning? How far was it, and are Bob and myself able to participate in this case? And Jim?
I don't think we got too far into it
Yeah.
because we didn't have the parking diagram.
So is,
We could present everything again. It was short.
It was short enough,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, I
It was
just wanted
short
to make
enough to
sure.
present it again.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Attorney Tony Loma. I represent Mr. Tom Hoppel, who's here tonight. As Mr. King stated, Mr. Hoppel now owns a row house with all 4 units in it, 507 through 513 River Street. Mr. Hoppel is requesting that be converted from 1 family to 2 family. It's an R2 zone. We believe, first, you should have before you a layout, a 2-page layout. First page is the first floor, second page is the second floor. All the units are exactly alike. As you can see, first floor, you walk in, there's the main entrance, there's a hallway. To the left, you go into the lower apartment. You go up steps to the second floor, where the second floor apartment is. The way that the building was constructed, we believe it was meant as 2 families from the start because of the layout of the steps and the hallways. When Mr. Hoppel will testify that when he was doing work on the units, it looked like there was outlets for stoves and everything on the second floor, that it was 2 families. And at one point, there was a 4-room boarding house in the 1 unit. Mr. Hoppel will testify to that. There was question, and the board wanted this drawing last time we were presenting it. Also, there is a parking area. Mr. Hoppel owns 3 lots right behind the row houses. And he has more than enough there's 15 spots parking. And one of the big things I know for the board and for the neighbors is off-street parking. There's, I think was it down 1.5 per apartment? And if we're looking for units, so there's 4 units, so it's 15? Am I multiplicating? 12? 12. So we have 15. And also there's a map showing where the units are, and in those neighborhoods there are commercial and multifamily units throughout or surrounding Mr. Hoppel's property. So we believe it's not changing the character of the neighborhood. And again, the big thing is the off-street parking. And I'd like to call Mr. Hoppel to testify.
Can I just ask you one question? The main entrance you have on this house, how wide would you say that hallway is in the entrance? At least, right?
It's at least,
It's
36.
36.
Why don't we get
Get him sworn in?
you sworn in first, and then you can answer the
I
question.
mean, Dan, this is just what I'm seeing here is that the units look to be too small because what
Well,
they
that's
have.
Let's get him sworn in, and then we can ask him those questions.
So raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please, sign your name, please.
Thomas Hoppel,
Spell your last name.
Hoppel.
Thank you.
You had a question, Chairman?
I was just looking to see the main entrance in the hallway, how wide that is.
I would say that's about 36 inches.
And then that's what I figured. So I'm coming up with like 550 square feet for each unit because of the hallway, and I know they're coming up with 688, but I'm not sure how you came up with it.
That's the 43 feet by 16 wide.
Yeah, but that hallway's not the apartment, correct?
Correct.
So then it would be 43 by 13, correct?
43 by 13, yes, that's,
So we're short on apartment sizes.
Well, the upstairs is larger, because the hallway doesn't run the full length, if you know what I mean. When you come up the steps, there are use on the top of where the stairways end, and the apartment begins upstairs. The upstairs unit is larger than the first floor unit.
It can't be, Tony, because you got the stairways going up there, so it takes up.
Right, but when you get,
Mr. Bob, she can't hear you.
when you get to
Microphone.
the top of the steps, you have, I don't know, 25% of where the stairways run, that's space for the apartment versus the first floor. I'm just saying first floor versus second floor.
But you still lose it on the second floor. Going up this, you still lose it on the second floor, too.
Not all of it, I'm saying.
You're still short each floor.
Yeah, but I'm saying the second floor is a little larger than the first floor, square footage.
Just to clarify, on the second floor,
Yes.
you're saying it's larger, but according to what you submitted, it's saying it's the same amount of square footage. You're saying it's 688 square feet on the first floor, and then you're stating it's 688 square feet on the second floor. So which one is it?
688 is the footprint.
that's perimeter.
The footprint of the building. I believe was it Mr. Walsh mentioned, or Chairman Walsh mentioned, the first floor, the stairways take up a little bit on the right-hand side. I'm saying on the second floor, at least 25-30% is in use, because the stairs end. I hope I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly.
I would assume, Dan, that both units are under the 600 square feet.
Well, let's, just to clarify this, at 507, you have 2 units?
Yes,
509, 2 units?
identical, yes.
And 511, how many units?
2
2.
and 513 too. I mean, there's one unit upstairs and downstairs on each of those 4 addresses, and they're the same.
So you actually have 8 units total.
Yes.
We were seeking 8. There's 4. We're seeking 8. Each one is separate. Each unit is you know, there's a wall. There's separate units, and they're all separate PIN numbers too. They were subdivided whenever.
You mean you have 4 separate PIN numbers?
Yes.
And also 509 was, I was given permission to split 509 3 years ago by the city.
You'd have to, Mr. Hoppel, you would have had to come before us to split that. That would have been a zoning issue. Am I correct on that?
I don't know what went on before.
Somebody at City Hall, I believe.
If it was a single house at that time, they were all single houses at that time. But to go to a 2-unit, he would have had to receive a variance?
I would think so.
Yeah. So I don't know where the approval came from at that time. I know, I'm just saying, you know,
I don't
for
either.
clarity.
I mean, unless they're able to present evidence that at some point it was legally changed to 2 in a prior.
From what I'm seeing, you need to go back to the drawing board and come up with 600 square foot units.
Well, there's no way,
It's a brick house.
there's
It
no
comes-
way to come up with
It
600.
comes up with 559 square feet in each unit.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
they're going to need a variance for that.
there's no way to expand the units.
The one thing about the downstairs unit, it has the full basement. They have access to that and the outside garage. I mean, to be inside them, they're pretty nice apartments, and they've been rented for, on 509, they've been rented for 3 years. And, you know, I'm a tenant there for 3 years. Downstairs, upstairs has been less steady.
Dan, how did you come up with that square footage? Like, I'm just trying to, because I came up with 559.
43 times 13.
I thought you said 589. I thought I heard.
No, 559.
Okay.
But that's the downstairs, right, Dan?
Well, basically all of them, right?
He's talking about on the second floor, there's a bathroom area that probably has a few more square feet on the back corner.
Correct, the upper right-hand side, there's,
No.
but like I said, there is no physical way to expand the buildings. It's not like it's not like it was all one floor and you could, you know, cut off certain areas or add certain areas. And again, all the units are separate PIN numbers, subdivided.
Dan and Don, maybe you can answer this question, because I'm not sure. What's the necessity for a second egress from that building on the second floor? Where do we come under with that?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that. That's a building code question, and
Right.
when they come in for their permits, that would be checked both by our
Is that an
code reviewer
occupancy,
and the fire
the
department.
occupancy permit or the permit to do
Well,
the
yeah,
work?
Yeah, I mean, there would have to be new occupancy permits for all 8 units when they're completed.
Because that's my concern, Mr. Hoppel. I see, you know my closest proximity. There's no exit from that second floor in the rear, and it doesn't show like you're going to show any there. So my concern is if there's a fire or something like that, how they exit in that unit.
Well, I have a question. If say this was kept single family, there still is no second.
But it's not a single family. It's looking for 2 units.
You don't?
No, you don't need it for
You don't need it for a single family, but for a second,
You're still in the
third.
same situation, though.
Tony, we both know that. I mean, I get what you're saying, but.
Yeah, I mean, logically, you're in
Every
the
house
same.
in the city would be putting a set of steps down from their second floor if that was the code, you know what I mean? I have a couple problems with this, and this is tough for me. I grew up in that neighborhood. They weren't doubles, they were singles. I hung around kids that lived in them houses and grew up in them houses and everything. They're always single houses. And I get the investment that Mr. Hoppel's made in this area and everything like that. But I'm concerned about the size of them, as Mr. Walsh indicated, and I'm concerned, and I don't know the code, so I mean, my concern might be for nothing at this point here, of the fact that there's no second exit out of that second floor.
Well, I think that's something we could address pretty easily, that we could have egress from the back. And I'd be glad to do that. I don't think you'd have to cut through the brick. There's windows back there.
Mr. Hoppel, wasn't there,
And I think,
511, wasn't there a door, before you personally, wasn't there a door on that second floor?
that was 509, yes.
509.
There was. I mean, I'm being completely honest. There has been kitchens on that floor, in that back area, and then in 507, I know there's evidence that there was machines back there. 513, there's was some kind of kitchen back there. Maybe it was mom and pop. You know, mom lived upstairs.
I'm
kids
sure it
lived
happened without anyone knowing it over the years.
Right.
Like anything else, do you know what I mean? But I know in the 60s and 70s, when I grew up right there, it was all single-family homes. I mean, I could rattle the name off to people that lived there for years and years and years, especially the one right at the alley there. But that's neither here nor there.
And we could put in a door on the second floor and have egress from the kitchen.
If it matters to the board, I'll say in our draft new zoning ordinance, we've done away with the 600 square foot minimum. And I think it's a minimum as allowed by the building code, and I think it says something to the effect is you have to have at least one room with 120 or 170 square feet, a bathroom, a kitchen, and everything else has to meet code. So it's going to be a little, there's no set minimum square footage.
Are you saying, with the new one, I know we're not there yet, I don't know if we're even close to going there yet, but, so The new one saying, you're saying a minimum of 120 square foot for one room, say a 10 by 12
Well, you
living
have
room?
to have at least one room of 120 or 170 square feet. I don't remember the exact number. You have to have a kitchen, you have to have a bathroom, and all the other, everything else has to meet the minimum of the building code, the international building code.
And if you look at the drawing, the living room is definitely 120 square feet.
Are the measurements on there?
This is drawn by him. This is not drawn by him.
I would say the front bedroom is maybe 12 or 13 by 10.
So then, does he have to reapply or could we add the square footage variance into this?
He can amend his application to add the square footage into this.
We so amend.
The board has to allow you to amend.
We request that you allow us to amend.
And if, inside these apartments, I mean, we've done some of these apartments already. They're nice. They've got a bedroom, they've got a living room, they've got a really nice kitchen, nice bathroom. I mean, when I bought them, it was squalor. You know, it was really a bad situation. The buildings were falling down. There's new roofs on them. There's all new plumbing in the ones that we've renovated, all new electric. I bought the lots back there. I have a plan to, unify the look of the place, so it's going to really improve it in terms of, Mr. Gattens gave me a couple nice trees to put out front. We're trying to, to bring back the neighborhood. It's not, I don't want to put rental families into those properties because I think that's more problem as a landlord, because it's just so many people in, a small house. This is going to be two nice, fully renovated apartments for single, maybe a couple and a cat. That's the kind of tenant I'm trying to go for.
And it should be noted, Mr. Hoppel owns several other properties in the neighborhood. He's trying to improve the neighborhood. I say he purchased the fourth unit there. Now he can unify the building, and everything's under his ownership.
Well, my dad grew up in one of the rows on Pittston Avenue, so I own that. And, I have a commitment to the neighborhood to, bring it back.
Before we go any farther, I'm going to excuse myself from voting tonight because of my relationship with Mr. Hoppel and relationship with the neighbors, some of the neighbors that are here. So I will not be voting on this tonight here.
As a condition, we would like to add that, that the parking lot be paved. If we could put that in, please.
You got any problem with that?
It's not paved right now, but it is, it's a parking lot.
You have any problem paving it?
It's going to be really expensive, but.
Isn't that going to cause more impervious issues? Whatever you...
It does have a gravel parking lot. It's been like that for a couple decades.
I know in the past, we've always required paving. In the past, we've always required paving.
I'm just concerned too about the impervious, water flow, and, but if that's your requirement.
I would pave the minimum spots required.
The minimum spots required, so 12.
I'm not saying it's an approval, but,
Right.
is there anybody in the audience here to give testimony on this case?
Number 2. River Street.
All right, Dan, so do we have that in there about the minimum required pavings? For the minimum required spots for the,
I'll agree to pave the lot, if that's what it takes.
I guess the water runoff would be the only question on paving everything.
And there is a drainage problem down at that end of River Street also, so. It is a dry lot. I mean, there's a few puddles, but it's not, and, you know, it's been repaired by my crew. You know, if there is a puddle, we repair it. I don't know if we're creating more problem by doing that or not.
yes.
I'll make a motion to vote with the contingencies.
Second.
Mr. McDermott?
No.
Mr. Collins?
No.
Mr. Morris?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, voted 3-0, you've been denied.
Was that with the amendment for the square footage, or could we reapply for the square footage? I just want to clarify.
That was with the square footage
Amendment?
amendment.
We already voted.
Can I ask the reason, or? I mean, what can we do to come back, or?
We did, and we denied it.
Thank you.
I think we just had to accept. Call the next case, please.
Case number 3, Jose Florentino seeks variance to convert former funeral home / apartment to 4-unit dwelling at 1101 Prospect Avenue, R1A zone, continued from the August meeting.
Excuse me, I just have a quick question. I don't see anyone here for number 10. Is number 10 still on, or is that canceled?
That is canceled.
No, number 10 has been withdrawn.
6:30 Clay is withdrawn.
630 Clay has been withdrawn, yes.
Okay, so that'll be another night or something?
No, they withdrew it completely.
Is it just
They're going to reapply
So, yeah, they
for
would have to
something else.
reapply.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, they'd have to reapply.
Sorry, can I get the testimony about the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so I'll say
Yes.
that. Name, spell your name.
Jose Florentino, Jose Jose, Florentino Florentino.
You may proceed.
Okay, so I recently bought this property. It used to be a funeral home. Right now, the first floor was the only area being used. The top floor on both sides of the property were kind of empty for a long time. It looks like abandoned. But they have the setting for the apartments already on both second floors. So there is a drawing there for a ground floor, which is where the funeral home used to be. And that's what I want to split into 2 apartments. And then the second floor on each side of the property, I want to just renovate it and habilitate it for usage. I have a garage for 6 cars that is in the property. It's not on the drawings, but it's on the property, and also in front of the in front of the garage, you can park 3 cars like in the property, like in front of the garage without obstructing the sidewalk. There is also an empty lot next to the property, which is part of the property with an easement, where I could use it as a parking that I already asked for it. And they told me that I can use it, pave it as a parking, but I can not build anything on it because it's an easement for a sewer, I believe it is, something like that.
And this is the fenced-in lot you're talking about?
I'm sorry, what?
You're talking about the fenced-in lot that's next?
Yes.
Who owns that?
Part of the property, I own part of the fence. I own it, and then part of it is an easement. The two properties. There's two tax ID on the property, and in between there is an easement for the sewer. So they told me I can pave it, but I cannot build anything on it.
Who told you that?
On the what that be the place where you go to get
License and inspections?
Yeah, license.
Mr. King, you know anything on that, or?
Well, you would, if you're buying something that has an easement running through it.
It's still his property,
It's
right?
still his property. He could use it however he wants, but he can't build anything on it.
Okay.
To prevent them from going into the easement and repairing a sewer line or something.
But who has the easement?
The sewer authority.
Underneath.
They could
Okay,
go
but
in.
what I'm saying is,
They could go in and dig up their sewer line if they need to repair it.
But I already have 9 parking spaces, basically, because I can have 6 cars inside the garage and 3 more in front of it.
You can't stack cars. You can't stack.
Oh, okay, all right.
so how many units are you looking for altogether?
4 units.
4 units.
It's
So
only 4.
2 downstairs and 2 on the second floor?
Yes.
So we need 6 spots.
Yes, that's right.
So you're gonna let a tenant park in the garage,
Yes.
and then you can pave
The
another
the
3 or
empty lot.
4 additional spots next
Yeah.
to the garage?
Sure.
Yeah. Is there anyone here to give testimony in this case? See if I get you a picture, Bob.
So when you said 6 parking spot, the street parking is not counted, right? Okay. Because that's a corner property, which is, but
I'm sorry. It's big enough. No, easy. Easy. So I think we'd like to make it a condition to add 3 more spots next to the garage, or to the right of the driveway, paved, minimum 3 spots, so he meets.
okay.
In the fenced lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, will that fence remain, is it gated, that fence? Is it a solid fence all the way around?
There is a gate. There is a gate next to the garage, right where it meets the garage there is a gate.
So they'll be able to drive their vehicle in there?
Yeah.
You'd have to take the fence
Yeah, you have
down.
to take the fence down on the...
Yeah, if you're gonna pave it, there's no other way you're gonna get in there.
Now, he's going to have to get a permit for a curb cut at that point then, because he's going to be coming off the street, am I correct?
But it's
Well-
going, you can go from the garage to the.
From the garage? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can make the swing from that driveway.
Yep.
and-
It's around 10 feet, the fence.
Good.
Or more.
There's no one here? No one else here?
That's Google Maps, but.
It is?
Yeah.
I didn't know you used it.
Or make a motion?
You said it's a Google Map.
I'll make a motion to vote with the conditions.
Second.
Yeah, can you read the conditions back just so we make sure?
Well, the only condition that I got is you'd have 3 paved spots in the fenced lot. That'll give them a total of 6 spots.
Okay. Thank you.
No, you're not done yet?
We're ready.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, a vote of 5-0, you've been approved.
Thank you.
Good luck. Could we call the next case, please?
Case number 5, Karen Reyes seeks variance to use 2 bedrooms of 6 in the home to be rented out as short-term rentals, also known as Airbnbs, at 2 Elmhurst Boulevard, R1 zone.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
State your full name, please.
Juan Calderon, Juancalderon. I'm here for my wife, Karen Reyes. She couldn't come because she's sick.
Just make sure you're using the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so I'm here for my wife, Karen Reyes. She couldn't come because she's sick, so I came here just in case, you need to ask any questions.
Well, why don't you explain to us what you're trying to do?
Okay, so the reason why we decided to do that is because we moved to Scranton not too long ago to bring our son to go to college here, right? When we moved here, things changed around, and we're going back and forth because we have a business over there in New Jersey still. So we said, we have a 6-room house, 6-bedroom house. We're only 3 persons in there. Why don't we, to help ourselves, and then going back and forth, use the Airbnb if it's possible. So that's why we submitted the application. We're not trying to change anything, we're just asking for permission.
So do you live in the other spot, the rest of the house?
Yeah, we live in the house, yes.
Part-time, right?
It's only, we spend like 3-4 days in Jersey. Sometimes we spend the whole week here, but most of the time we spend like half of the week in Jersey, and we come back here. So when we come back to the city, then we activate it. Sometimes, we can get something, or maybe we cannot. So that's why we want to ask to do things legally, and if it's possible,
Done. In the new, the one that's not voted on, the new ordinance, what does it state about Airbnbs, if you could recall?
They are allowed in certain zones. I'm not sure about this particular zone. I don't believe so, but they are allowed in certain zones with an additional off-street parking spot, in addition to what was there previous.
Thank you. So, sir, when you and your family are not there, who's monitoring the house if you have Airbnb guests there?
Nobody, and I will not have an Airbnb guest if I'm not in the house. My son is over there, but if my wife or myself are not in the house, we will not have anybody in there. Only us. And it will be like only one night stand, somebody who needs a place to sleep, let it come and sleep and go next day.
Anyone here to give testimony on the case? Yes. What, you want to come up one at a time?
Ma'am, raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State and spell your full name.
Susan, S-U-S-A-N, Robinson, R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N. May I start?
Yes, you may proceed.
All right. Board and Chairman, my name's Susan Robinson. As I said, I live right next door to this proposed variance, and I just got this letter a few days ago stating all of this, and I have to say no to that variance. I really do. I think that it sounds like there's going to be some traffic coming and going for a one-night sleep in a house, and then what? And just not in favor of it at all. I've lived in my house since about 1975, and it's a very quiet, residential, single-family neighborhood. Doesn't include a whole bunch of people coming and going at all hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do.
State and spell your name.
Jeff Gergo, J-E-F-F-G-H-E-R-G-O.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I live at 1 Elmhurst Boulevard, which is directly across the street from this residence. And we purchased the property in 2005, my wife and I. I'm a lifelong resident of Scranton, as well as my wife. My wife teaches in the district. I have a 15-year-old daughter, 13-year-old son who live there. We bought this house in this location because it is very quiet. It's very quaint. We have great neighbors who've become very good friends, and I just think it isn't appropriate for the neighborhood that we live in. It's a residential neighborhood. We would have never purchased a house if we thought there was going to be rent, come and goes for short-term stays. And, I just think, from a safety perspective, having young children there, I don't know who's going to be coming and going and who's going to be pre-screening these people. And, you hear horror stories, and I think you can look up on, the internet of, what has happened with certain Airbnb and guests. Some of them are really great. Some of them, we don't know what their background is. And so from that perspective, I would have to say that we do oppose this because we really do like the neighborhood feel. Our neighbors, we walk our dogs up and down the street. We just want to make sure it stays neighborhood, stays very residential, and there isn't a commercial business in there because, it's 2 rooms now, and then what happens if it becomes 3 rooms, 4 rooms? Who's measuring it? Who's monitoring it? And we just don't know. So if the answer is no from right away, I think we keep our residential neighborhood, we keep our neighbors safe, and I just think that it's just not the right thing for this area. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. I do. Carol, C-A-R-O-L, Rice, R-I-C-E. I'm also a neighbor of our whole group that came tonight. We're there in that area for 40 years. It's a low-density residential area. It is, as they said, very quaint. We all know our neighbors. It's a very narrow road coming in, and just from that perspective alone, it's always been a little bit sketchy. And we have other new neighbors. It's a neighborhood that's in change, and I think this is a very bad safety feature. There's a lot of us that are older and have been there for many, many years. And it makes it too transient, and we just don't feel safe. That's my
huge concern. We have older people that, you know, might go away for a month and then come back, and we kind of watch out for each other. But when you have no idea who's there and when they're there, and no one else is saying how many people are there, how long are they there, that's very scary. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I do. My name is Vitaly Gaifman, spelled...
In front of the microphone, please.
My name is Vitaly Gaifman, spelled Vitalygayfman. I'm a neighbor who lives across the street on 8 Elmhurst Boulevard. And quite frankly, we've been there since 2007, so for about 15 years. And as everybody had said, it's a nice, friendly, quiet neighborhood. It's all single-family houses, and the reason why we moved into this area, because it's close, it's within city limits, and yet it's fairly secluded and very quiet. Having a hotel across the street is not something that is a good idea. As you know, any hotel would have security on
Maybe hold on
staff.
1 second, Tony.
I'm sorry?
Let the sirens pass.
Generally, a hotel that you go to will have security on, on premises, and there is a reason usually for that, because you never know who the guests are and what may happen. We just generally don't want strange people coming in and go at all times of day and night, potentially, and potentially having any kind of security concerns across the street. So we would like to say no to this idea.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I do. Marla, M-A-R-L-A, Nicoletto, N-I-C-O-L-E-T-T-O. You're welcome. Thank you. Chairman, council members, I live at 10 Elmhurst Boulevard. I am catty corner across the street from the residence that's requesting the variance. I am opposed to this. I'd like to explain why. It is my experience as a property manager, Airbnbs that are rented temporarily, one room at a time, they attract undesirables. I have seen this. It has been my experience. You have people that come in and they're there briefly. I can't get into details, but they attract drifters and they attract people that try to fly under the radar. I have been through several magistrate hearings for damage that has been done. We moved into our home 6 years ago because this was a beautiful neighborhood. We've been blessed with wonderful neighbors. As people have said, we look out for one another. We all know who each other are. I have a son. He walks the road. He walks our dog. I don't know who will be there. I do know who the company I work for has rented to. Those people are not people that I would want my son walking past this house. I strongly oppose this. I don't want to have to feel like I have to turn my home into some sort of surveillance camp, and that's exactly what I will have to do. We live there because it's a beautiful, quiet place. I'm sure you're all aware we pay some of the highest taxes in the city. It's a residential zoned area, and I would very much want it to stay that way. And I do feel that if it is allowed, it will plummet our property values, because as someone else said, I'm not sure who, it starts out 2 rooms, then it goes to 3, and who knows? I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything to follow up with, sir?
Well, I just want to say whatever decisions you guys take on this case. First, I want to apologize to the neighbors if they feel that way. I'm also a property manager. I have rented properties in New Jersey. Not one, I have 7. But unfortunately, I moved to Scranton at the wrong time. My wife got sick, so we got caught in certain things, you know. That's why we requested this. Now, I want to apologize to the neighbors. They feel insecure. Like she said, she's been our property manager for a long time. She should know how Airbnb works and how things work when you ask for permission legally. If I'm asking for permission legally, it means I'm not going to do anything wrong while behind the walls. That's the reason why I came today here to ask you guys this. Whatever you guys decision take, I'll take it and I respect it. I came here for that purpose, to ask for something, knowing that it could be denied or it could be accepted. And neighbors, again, I apologize if you feel that way. We're not weird people. We're human like everybody else. We just trying to settle ourselves here until we organize ourselves to just stay here and move our business to Scranton. That's what we're trying to do right now. Not to hurt anybody, not to cause any problems, and none of that stuff. As a matter of fact, we would like to get along with our neighbors, but we don't have time to be in our home. Right now, we asking this because we're going back and forth to New Jersey. Unfortunately, I'm the only one that goes back and forth because my wife is sick. So I say, you know what, let me ask for this, you know, to help myself until I settle myself in here. Because I have 2 businesses in New Jersey, but right now they're not making good, so I am trying to move them over here. So, and that back and forth is killing me. That's the reason why I'm asking for this today.
We appreciate you coming and trying to do the right thing.
Sure.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. McDermott?
No.
Mr. Collins?
No.
Mr. Morris?
No.
Mr. Gattens?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
No. Vote of 5 to 0, you've been denied.
Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We call the next case, please.
Case number 6, Scranton School District seeks front setback and impervious coverage variances for an addition to the Robert Morris Elementary School at 1824 Boulevard Avenue in the CN and R1A zones.
Why these guys set up? They want to just take a 5-minute to use the restroom, okay? Five-minute recess, please. Nope, I didn't realize she wasn't here.
We almost started without you.
Can we call the next case? I don't know if we call the,
Scranton School District.
Scranton School District seeks setback and impervious coverage variances for an addition to the Robert Morris Elementary School, 1824 Boulevard Avenue, CN and R1A zones.
Good evening. My name is Jody Mooney, and I represent the Scranton School District and the reason that we're here tonight. The Scranton School District is seeking zoning variances regarding the Robert Morris Elementary School. The two zoning variances that we are requesting pertain to zoning section 307.B.2, front yard setback, and section 307.B.2 and 4, impervious coverage. I have three gentlemen who will be testifying here tonight. We will be as succinct as we can with regard to the overall issue that we're attempting to achieve, and we thank you for your time. The first witness who will be testifying is Mr. Robert Rucker.
Please raise your right hand. You swear testimony about to give the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you.
I do.
Please state and spell your full name.
Robert Rucker,
Spell your last name.
R-U-C-K-E-R.
Mr. Rucker, can you please advise the zoning board what your position is?
Director of Operations for Scranton School District.
How long have you held that position?
Year and a half.
Okay. And we are here tonight seeking two zoning variances regarding the Robert Morris Elementary School, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I will have the two other gentlemen testify in a moment, but can you just explain, on behalf of the Scranton School District, why the Scranton School District is seeking these variances?
Yes, ma'am. Board, Commissioner Walsh, thank you for letting us come in and speak. As you know, Robert Morris is a longstanding school there in the Green Ridge section. We're seeking the variances because what we're looking to do is provide additional ADA accessibility to the schools. We want to provide that equity and accessibility for all students and visitors who would attend or visit Robert Morris Elementary.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Mr. Ethan Fick.
Raise your right hand, please. Swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you.
I do.
Please spell your full name.
Ethan Fick, F-I-C-K.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening, board members. It's a pleasure to be here, and we thank you for the time for us to hear our testimony. I would like at this time to pass a handout around.
I can do it. May I have a question? Thank you.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fick, can you please say your title for the record?
Yes, my name is Ethan Fick with Dewey Engineering. We are the district's engineer and construction manager. Okay. Just to give you a little background on why we're here, in 2020, the district undertook a process with our firm to develop a feasibility study, and from that study, we've identified building improvements that are necessary for the district to continue their educational program. Robert Morris is obviously one of the schools that is high on the list for renovation, and those renovations are targeting basically what we call warm, safe, dry. And we've been going with that motto with the district since we've been on board since 2020. And warm, safe, dry is basically bringing those buildings up to ADA accessibility as best we can, providing the safety of the students, and upgrading infrastructure, which includes mainly mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. So as part of this renovation process, we did pass out flyers to the students, as well as the teachers, and the students took those home to their parents with the community, in which we advertised a public meeting with the parents of the school. We did pass out flyers to the immediate neighbors. We had some neighbors immediately across the school come to that meeting where we explained the process, and we explained that we would be here in front of the zoning board trying to be good neighbors. So with that, the reason that we're here is we're proposing an addition to the front of the building that is approximately 1,400 square foot. Included in that is a new, safe, secure entrance vestibule that has a man trap. The man trap opens for a person to enter into a space that has a kiosk in it that you swipe your ID in, and then the school district can from there go through background checks. Additionally, the school, if you recall now, you go in the main entrance, you're pretty much free to go anywhere into that school before you ever get to the main office. So obviously safety is a concern. The secondary portion of that is accessibility. Right now, there's no elevator, and the school is a multi-story building. So with that, I will leave it up to the civil engineer to go through the various specifics of why we're here.
Thank you, Mr. Fick. So we will now have Mr. Terry DeGroot and Mr. I'm sorry. You're going to say our name.
I do. My name is Terry DeGroot, D-E-G-R-O-O-T.
And can you please identify what your position is and who you work with?
Yes, I'm an owner, and I also work at Terraform Engineering. We've been hired to assist with this process as well as the site design for this small addition at Robert Morris Elementary. I have about 35 years of experience, been to several of these hearings, so I'm happy to be with you here tonight.
Could you please explain the variances that have been presented for
Sure.
the district seeking approval?
Sure, we're asking for two variances tonight, as was mentioned earlier. One is for a front yard setback. The proposed addition is going to go on the Columbia Street side of the building. Currently, the building is about 29 feet, a little more than 29 feet from Columbia Street. With the construction of the addition, it would be, oops.
I'm so sorry, I was just trying to make this easier, and I made it harder.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Thank you.
That's a little flimsy. Thank you, sir. Okay, we try not to touch that again.
Sorry about that.
So you can see here on top of the plan, this was the zoning plan that was submitted as part of the application. We have Columbia Street, and the addition will project closer to Columbia Street. The addition needs to be on this side of the building because of the configuration of the inside of the building. They had to find a location that would be able to accommodate an elevator stop at all 3 floors in the building. This entrance is, as you can see, we have steps in the front to get to it. We also have a handicap ramp to provide ADA access, of course. So it comes in at a mid-level point between the lower level and the second level. From that point, visitors can take the elevator up and down in the building. And as Mr. Fick mentioned, there's also a secure access point there. So this location was the only location it was feasible to provide an elevator to all 3 floors. So that's why we have to be on Columbia Street. So we are requesting a waiver to allow a setback of no closer than 77 feet to the property line. That constitutes a variance of 13 feet from the required 20-foot setback. Are there any questions on that issue? All right, then I'll proceed with the second request. We also have a request for a very minor amount of additional impervious coverage. The property is bisected by 2 zoning districts. The portion of the property along Boulevard Avenue is in the CN Neighborhood Commercial District. And then beyond that, the rest of the property is in the R1A zoning district, medium-low density residential. The impervious coverage requirements for these districts are different. In the CN district, you're allowed 100% impervious coverage. You can pave the entire property. In the R1A district, you're allowed up to 80%. And the application details the coverages, if we combine the two lots and treat it as one, we have currently 73.6% impervious coverage on the entire school property. In the proposed condition, we're going to have 74.8% over the entire property. But just looking at the R1A zoning district, we have an increase of, a planned increase, I'll say, about 773 square feet. We do like to request a little buffer. You know, during construction, things do change. We want to make sure that we have adequate relief to complete the project. The buffer is, yes, the actual number that's shown on the plan today is 773, but there are some design adjustments that potentially could be made. But the request is specifically for 1,002 square feet, or 2.5% in excess of the 80% allowed in the R1A. But again, when we look at the property as a whole and doing a weighted average of both requirements, we're less than both of those. When we do a weighted average of both of the properties, the impervious coverage is less than the allowable impervious coverage for both portions of the property. Okay, and actually, a good portion of the reason for the additional impervious coverage in excess of what the ordinance would allow is the handicap ramp, which, as you can see from the plan, takes up a fair amount of space outside. So we think this addition will be an attractive addition to the school. School's going to stay open, and the school's going to be a lot nicer, safer, warmer, and drier. That's the credo here.
Is this plan increasing classroom size in that building?
That would be a question for Mr. Fick.
There is no change to any interior space square foot wise.
So basically, it's just a vestibule that you're building, a new vestibule that you're building in the front, new entranceway?
I'm sorry?
It's going to be a new entranceway into the building?
Correct.
Okay. Single story, am I looking at that right? Single story?
The entrance area is single story. The elevator obviously is multi-story.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions on that request for impervious coverage?
I don't think we're good.
Nope.
Are you finished?
I'm finished. Are you something to close?
Thank you for your time. We believe that this variance request would result in some much-needed improvements for the Robert Morris Elementary School. It would be beneficial to both the employees, staff, and visitors who would be coming into that school, and we're hopeful that you will grant that.
Is there anyone here to give testimony on the case? Okay, there is not.
I'll make a motion to vote.
I'll second.
Yes.
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 Yes, vote of 5-0, you've been approved. Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
We call the next case, Mr. King.
Case number 8, Maria Genico seeks variance to operate daycare center for up to 6 children at 1837 Boney Street, R1A zone.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Say your full name.
Maria Genao, Genao.
Hi, good evening. I'm the owner of 1835 and 1837 Bundy Street, and I requested a variance because I would like to put a daycare. I basically have two options. Put a family daycare up to 6 children that are unrelated to the operator, or a group family daycare with 12 children that are unrelated to the operator. So I'm here today requesting a variance and see if I could get a decision from you today.
What would your hours of operation be?
I was looking into 7 to 5 p.m., 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.,
How many days a week?
5 days a week.
Monday through Friday, correct?
I'm
Are
sorry?
you going to have any other staff besides yourself?
It depends. If I'm approved for 6, it would only be me. And if I'm approved for 12, I would have to hire someone else.
And where would your pickup and drop-off be?
I have 2 options because I'm located my house is located in a corner. So I could have the pickup through the front and the drop-off through the side.
Do you live on one side, you have tenants on the other side of that building?
Correct. I live on one side, and on the other side, I would plan to do the daycare.
Do they have access to that backyard?
No, she said it's going to be the daycare on the other side.
Oh, so the whole building's going to be, I see what you're doing. So you won't have tenants there?
No.
Okay, I apologize. Okay. Any questions? Do you have children of your own?
No.
Did you talk to any of your neighbors about what you were trying to do?
Yes. I'm very close to one of my neighbors on my right side. Most of them are older, and Maria and Tom, they were in agreement with the plan. My neighbor on the left just moved in, so I haven't been able to talk to her about the proposal of a daycare or something.
You talked about 6 to 12 kids, but on here it says 6.
Yes, when I submitted the request, I was only thinking about doing just the family daycare, but then I was given the option, not the option, I was, after reading and doing research around childcare regulations, there's also an option to put a group daycare. And I think based on the space, I might be able to have 12 kids, maybe 12 kids.
Now, you'd have to get licensed and accredited?
Yes.
You haven't gone through any of that part, yes?
I'm sorry?
You haven't done any of that, yes, as far as?
I've done trainings.
She can't make any application until she has zoning approval.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, if she had to wait.
You do know the school buses go up and down that road that early in the morning, too. Because I talked to a couple of neighbors, and they were honestly against it because of the buses going there and the traffic right there with a narrow street.
So I do see a school bus every morning. There's not a lot of traffic around there. You don't see a lot of, just a school bus. I don't recall the time, but yes, I do see the school bus in the morning.
So we're voting on 6 kids. That's what's in front of us.
Okay.
I have nothing else. Nope.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second.
No.
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 No, a vote of 5-0, you've been denied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case, please.
Seeks variance to construct a private garage principal structure with a home to be built in the future at 524 Aldrich Street.
Mr. Diaz here?
You want to bring him back at the end? It is? That's the last case?
No, there's one more.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Next case, please.
Case number 11, Matthew Sephora.
Yes.
Seeks variance to convert existing garage to one-bedroom unit for care of relative. Variance is to allow unit in an unattached building on the lot at 1000 Richmond Street, LA.
Already?
You may
Oh,
proceed.
okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State and spell your full name.
Matthew, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, Safara, S-F-A-R-R-A. Thank you. Yes, I apologize. We didn't have the full-size sets ahead of time. Yeah. And I know I explained it briefly, but essentially my mom lives up in Clark Summit. I live in Scranton. I've been lucky enough to be able to come back to the area about a year ago, and we purchased a home in Greenridge. My mother has been getting on in years, and that's one of the reasons why we came back, is both of our parents are in the area. She doesn't want to go to a nursing home or assisted living, and she's not really at that point yet, but she's also at a point where she needs more help than I've been able to give her lately. So I'm hoping to bring her closer to me, and we had looked at our house. It's an older house, it's about 100 years old, but it's three or four floors, depending on how you look at it, but very difficult to put in some sort of an elevator or something to go from floor to floor. We also only have a full bathroom on the second floor or third floor, however you'd look at it. So we would need to put in a bathroom as well. When we took a look at things, we saw that in the alleyway, some folks had put some apartments above their garages. And I had thought about possibly doing that as an option. But when I spoke to my mother, she didn't like the idea of living on the second floor. So we had looked at different situations, and really what we're looking to do is not go outside the footprint of the garage, not go up at all, but just make the space on the inside into a one-bedroom apartment with handicapped accessibility in case my mother eventually does need a wheelchair, and to be able to put in like a sit-down shower and more accessible type of bathroom. So I'm not really sure, I've never been through this before, if there's other information I could provide for you.
Just according to the ordinance, he seems to fit everything except for 40315 H and I, which H says the unit for care of a relative should not have its own exterior entrance and shall not have its own electric and water meter. And I is that the unit should be connected to or within the principal dwelling. So they're the two variances that he needs.
Yes, and there would be, are you saying there shouldn't be a door going into it? There would be a door to be able to get in and out. And it would be accessible through my backyard. We have an indoor pool back there, so it wouldn't be part of the house, but essentially you'd have to come onto my property to get to that door. So it wouldn't be sort of open to the public. Yeah.
So Dan, how's that handled in the future? You know, we approve it for a relative to live in for health reasons, and how do you manage that going forward? God forbid something happens to his mother.
15D handles that. It says once the unit is no longer occupied by such relative, the dwelling shall be reconverted into part of the principal dwelling that it's on. So in other words, it couldn't be another apartment for anybody. So it would have to go back to be a garage for the principal dwelling.
And do you guys understand you'd have to bring it back to a garage after that, or?
Now, would we have to bring it back to a garage, or could it just be a part of, the reason why I ask is it would be, I have my main house, then I have my backyard with a pool. There's not much land around it, and then the house would be behind that. So I thought future use, my mother's parents are both in their late 70s. They live in Old Forge, and we would be the primary caretakers for them as well. So we wouldn't ever be looking to rent it, but
as long as if you're using it for your in-laws, then it's still care of a relative.
It would be a care of a relative then,
right.
So.
Once none of the relatives are there,
then we'd have to.
You couldn't use it. You could use it as a garage. You could use it as a pool house.
And that's the other thing is my wife works remotely from home, so eventually, if there were no need for it, it would probably become an office and a gym and that type of a thing. Yep. Yeah.
Dan, just for some clarification, I'll feed off of what Mr. Walsh just asked. Just say 20 years down the road, this family decides to sell this house. At that point there, it goes back to a garage?
Yes, it has to be.
Has to be returned to a garage.
Has to be part of the principal dwelling, in other words.
Okay. And
Yes.
it can never be rented out just to, for care of a family?
No, because we're only approving it as a unit for care of a relative. It's a very limited use.
Right, and I'm just going for clarification, a couple points here. And it can't be used for, say, a son or daughter to go live in, being a family member, unless they're sickly.
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
And the area overlooks our pool, so we probably would never rent it to someone else.
Well, I'm looking, when you're through with that property, the next owner down the road.
Oh, sure, no, I understand, yeah, what happens when we leave, yeah.
Is there anyone here to give testimony on the case?
I am. Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State and spell your full name.
Laura Agostini, Agostini. I'm president of the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association. With the clarifications that have been given, that it is for the care of a relative and that it cannot be rented out to anyone, any opposition that I had is kind of moot. I just wanted to make that clear. Our concern as the neighborhood association was that we didn't want another apartment put there. It's not enough room. I drove by it. It kind of is, opens up onto an alleyway. And while there are some apartments and some houses on that alleyway, I don't think they really need any additional people there. And I'm sure you would agree with that. As long as this cannot be converted into an apartment at some point, and that with the conditions that are in the zoning ordinance, that it needs to revert back to a garage, then I think that as an association that we're okay with it. Those were our concerns.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Make a motion?
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second? Anybody second?
Second.
On the motion, Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, vote of 5-0, you've been approved. Good luck, guys. I don't think we have to call the last case, right? I don't see anybody else.
I think we'll just automatically continue it to the next hearing.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
We'll give them one continuance. If they don't show the second time, then they're out.
Sounds good. Meeting adjourned.